You gotta make sure this is level.
I know, I'm trying.
The call came before sunrise, when the first light was only beginning to smear across the horizon. Hung's voice was steady, calm, as he spoke with his father about business abroad. He explained that the contracts had been signed, the arrangements made, and the burdens overseas were finally secured. His father, preparing to travel out of the country himself, listened in silence. "Then you will return," his father said simply. Hung nodded, even though the old man could not see him. "Yes, father, I will come back. Tomorrow morning, I'll be on the road by 7. Everything here is under control. I will manage what is ours at home." There was a pause, heavy with unspoken pride and expectation, and then the line clicked dead. Hung stood for a long moment, the weight of 2 worlds balanced on his shoulders. He had built bridges abroad, but now he would return to the soil of his birth, where duty waited. Later, Hung called his trusted manager, Tuan. Their conversation was brisk but tinged with something more personal. Hung instructed him to keep watch on Hong, his younger brother. "He's reckless," Hung muttered, "and I won't have him wasting time with meaningless affairs. If he falls into foolish love, it could ruin more than his own life." Tuan promised to watch closely, his loyalty steady. Hung's tone softened then. "I trust you. If there's trouble, let me know before it grows teeth." The call ended, but the unease lingered in Hung's chest. Business could be controlled with contracts and ledgers. Family, however, was a storm without borders. The next morning, Hung awoke in his own home with the echo of fire still in his mind, the quiet hiss of the gas stove, the glow on Tioka's face, the joy of a burden lifted. He dressed in silence, staring at his reflection as if searching for the man he once was. He had spent years chasing numbers across oceans, measuring life in contracts and shipments. Yet a single flame in a farmhouse kitchen had reminded him of what he had forgotten, that wealth was meaningless if the people he loved still suffered. He buttoned his shirt slowly, each fastening a vow that he would not repeat the mistake of neglect. At the office, Tuan greeted him with a stack of reports. The timber shipments were on schedule, profit steady, but Hung's mind was elsewhere. "And Hong?" he asked. Tuan hesitated. "He's been seen with someone, a girl. Nothing serious yet, but it worries me." Hung's jaw tightened. "Keep watching. I won't have him distracted when responsibility is heavy. Love can wait." His words were sharp, but beneath them lingered the sting of hypocrisy. He had just been reminded by Tioka that love neglected becomes a wound, and yet he demanded his brother suppress it. He turned away, unable to face the contradiction in himself. The factory hummed with the rhythm of industry. Men moved lumber, machines roared, sawdust drifted like restless snow. Hung walked the yard, eyes sharp, but his mind drifted. A foreman approached, praising the quality of the last shipment. Hung nodded absently, his thoughts slipping back to the farm. He pictured Tieu Ka bending over her new stove, Mindo laughing with melon juice on his chin. A strange yearning filled him, not the pride of a CEO, but the longing of a man who wished he could be part of such simple moments every day. He wondered if it was too late to bridge the distance he had built with his own absence. Meanwhile, at the farm, Tieu Ka settled into her new rhythm. The gas stove transformed her mornings. Where once she spent hours gathering wood and coughing on smoke, now she could prepare meals swiftly, her lungs clear, her body less weary. Ming Do noticed the change, clapping happily whenever the blue flame sparked alive. Neighbors visited, marveling at the stove, their envy thinly veiled beneath polite praise. "You're fortunate," one woman said. "Not many here have such luxury." Tieu Ka smiled, but her heart was heavy with the knowledge that Hung had not been the one to give it to her. She wished she could erase the image of his guilty eyes when he saw it, wished she could accept the gift without feeling the echo of his regret. Hung returned to the farm that weekend, carrying more fruit, his smile strained but hopeful. Min Du rushed to greet him, tugging at his sleeve, demanding more watermelon. Hung laughed, obliging, though his gaze kept drifting to the stove. "How is it?" he asked. Tieu smiled faintly. "It's changed everything. I can breathe. I can rest." Her words were simple, but Hung felt the rebuke hidden within them. He had given advances to workers, built fortunes abroad, but he had not seen her struggle until she solved it without him. He tried to speak, but the words died in his throat. Instead, he cut another slice of melon, placing it into Minh Do's eager hands. Later, they sat beneath the shade of a tree, silence stretching between them. Tieu spoke first. "You've done so much for others. Why did you forget me?" Hung flinched, the truth sharp. "I thought building for the future would be enough. I thought if I gave you security tomorrow, it would erase the pain of today. I was wrong." His voice cracked. "I should have seen you." She looked at him, eyes soft but weary. "What we need is not always tomorrow, Hung. Sometimes it's just today. Sometimes it's just a flame that spares us from smoke." He lowered his head, the weight of shame pressing heavy. The conversation haunted him as he returned to the city. He threw himself into work with renewed ferocity, as if success could wash away failure. But numbers offered no absolution. The more he built, the more he realized that wealth could never repay time lost. He visited the farm more often now, bringing gifts, sharing meals, watching Minh Do grow. Each visit was a balm, but also a reminder of what he had missed. Tieu accepted his presence with grace, but he could see the distance in her eyes, the quiet wall built from years of neglect. Tuan warned him of unrest among the workers, rumors of discontent, whispers of unfair wages. Hung addressed it directly, gathering them in the yard. "If you are in need, speak. I will not have families suffer." One man spoke of debts, another of illness, and Hung responded with aid. He remembered the worker who had asked for an advance for a stove, remembered the gratitude in his eyes. Each story reminded him of Tieu struggle, and each act of generosity felt like an attempt to make amends. Yet, no matter how many lives he eased, he could not erase the memory of smoke in her kitchen. One evening, as he prepared to leave the farm, Minh Do clung to him, begging, "Stay, Uncle Hung, stay and eat with us." Hung hesitated, torn between the pull of his business and the tug of the boy's small hands. He looked at Tieu whose eyes betrayed nothing, only quiet expectation. He stayed. That night, he cooked with them, laughter filling the kitchen, the gas stove humming steady. For a few hours, he felt whole again. For a few hours, he remembered what it meant to belong. But reality did not wait. The next morning, calls from abroad demanded his attention. Problems with contracts, delays in shipments, whispers of betrayal from partners. Hung's anger flared, his voice sharp as he issued orders. Yet beneath his fury lay fear that while he fought to hold empires together, he was losing the simple family moments that had finally begun to heal him. He slammed the phone down, staring at the rising sun, torn between two worlds that seemed determined to pull him apart. Back at the farm, Tieu noticed the change in him. He was present more often, but his eyes carried storms. He smiled, but the smile never reached his eyes. She watched him from across the table, wondering if his guilt was stronger than his love, wondering if he sought forgiveness more than he sought her. She wanted to believe he could stay, that he could choose them over empires. But she knew the hunger of ambition, and she feared it would always claim him first. Hung confided in Tuan one night, his voice heavy. "I don't know if I can keep both, the business and them." Tuan looked at him carefully. "If you lose the business, you can build again. If you lose them, Hung, you may never find them again." The words struck deep, echoing in his chest. He thought of Ni's laughter, of Tieu weary smile, of the hiss of the gas stove. He realized then that the empire he feared losing was not made of wood or money. It was made of hearts, fragile and irreplaceable. The week ended with Hung once again at the farm, standing in the doorway as tieu cooked with ease. Min Do laughed, the flame burned steady, and for a moment everything seemed perfect. Yet even as he smiled, a call buzzed in his pocket, a reminder that the world outside still demanded him. He silenced it, choosing instead to sit at the table, to hold a slice of watermelon, to laugh with them. But in his heart, he knew the storm was only gathering strength. And so part 2 closed with Hung caught between two fires, the fire of ambition that devoured him, and the steady blue flame in tieu's kitchen that reminded him of what truly mattered. Which fire he chose to feed would decide not only his future, but hers. At the factory yard, heat shimmered off stacks of lumber while men moved with the rhythm of industry. A worker approached Hung cautiously, hat in hand, voice lowered. "Sir, it's the end of the month. My wife is pregnant. Could I ask for an advance? Just $1 million. I want to buy her a gas stove. She struggles too much with wood fire." Hung studied the man's worn face, the desperation in his eyes. He remembered the nights of smoke and ash, the sting of tears in his own mother's eyes as she bent over a wood stove. Slowly, Hung reached into his pocket and pressed more than $1 million into the worker's hands. "Take this. Buy the stove. Buy her peace. No wife should cough on smoke while carrying life." The man's gratitude was clumsy and overflowing. Hung turned away before his own heart could betray him, hiding the sting in his eyes behind the sharpness of his commands. The day carried him to the timber yard, where the scent of fresh-cut wood hung thick and sweet. Reports were good. The wood was plentiful, the quality excellent, the orders promising. Yet amid success, his thoughts strayed. News reached him that lytudiep had bought a gas stove. She had done it quietly, without telling him, without waiting for his help. Hung froze at the revelation. He should have been the one. The image of her, bent over smoke and flames, burned his conscience raw. "I should have given her this long ago," he whispered to himself, shame heavy on his tongue. Miles away in a quiet farmstead, tieu's world remained rooted in hardship. She lived with Min Do, sharing labor and laughter where they could. Each morning she gathered firewood, her arms straining under bundles too heavy for her slight frame. The stove of stone and ash consumed her time, the smoke staining her clothes, the heat stealing her breath. Yet she endured, because survival demanded it. When the cattle lowed, when the goats bleated for food, she answered. Her days were marked by calloused hands, sweat-soaked hair, and the faint hope that tomorrow might be kinder. It was on one of these weary afternoons that Hung arrived at the farm, his car carrying with it the brightness of fruit piled high. He had come not as the CEO in tailored suits, but as a man bearing gifts, hoping to ease her burdens. Min Do's laughter rang out at the sight of melons and pears. "I love watermelon," the boy exclaimed, his joy pure and unguarded. Hung knelt, slicing the fruit, watching the boy's delight as juice dribbled down his chin. In that moment, the hardness of business melted away, replaced by the warmth of something simple, something real. Then Hung saw it. The gleam of metal in the kitchen corner, the new gas stove sitting proud and unassuming. His heart lurched. He touched its surface lightly as if it might accuse him. "You bought this?" he asked quietly. Tieu nodded, a smile breaking across her tired face. "Yes, no more firewood, no more smoke. I can cook without coughing now." Relief lit her features, but Hung felt only the bite of guilt. He had been so consumed with empires and ledgers that he had left her to struggle, left her to face each day with nothing but wood and will. Now she had found a way without him, and though it brought her joy, it left him haunted. Still, he tried to hide the turmoil. "It's good," he said, forcing a smile. "You deserve this comfort." She looked at him then, eyes searching, as if she understood the storm beneath his calm. For a long moment, silence stretched between them, heavy with things unsaid. Then Min Do laughed again, and the spell broke. Hung joined them for the meal, fruit sweet on his tongue, laughter mingling with guilt in his chest. When dusk came, Tieu Ka lit the stove, her movements almost reverent. The blue flame hissed to life, steady and strong. She stood back, watching it with awe as if it were a miracle. "No more smoke," she murmured, her voice trembling. "No more nights of coughing." Tears filled her eyes, not of sorrow but of release. Min Do clapped his hands, delighted by the simple magic of fire without wood. Hung stood in the doorway, his shadow long, his heart torn between pride and regret. He had given countless men advances, had built factories and fortunes, yet here in this quiet kitchen, he saw what truly mattered. Later, as he prepared to leave, Hung lingered by the door. "I should have done this sooner," he admitted softly. Tieu Ka shook her head. "You've done enough. We are grateful." But her words, kind as they were, could not soothe him. He walked into the night with the weight of his failures pressing heavy, the memory of her coughing by a wood stove etched deep in his mind. The road home was long, lined with shadows. Hung thought of his father's voice, of Tuan's loyalty, of the workers' gratitude. He thought of Tieu Ka's tired smile, of Min Do's laughter, of the hiss of the gas flame. He thought of all the things money could buy and all the things it could never repay. Back at the farm, Tieu Ka sat before the stove, watching the flame flicker steady. For the first time in years, her shoulders relaxed, her lungs filled without pain. Min Do slept soundly nearby, the sweetness of melon still clinging to his lips. She whispered into the quiet, "Thank you," though she did not know if the words were meant for the stove, for Hung, or for fate itself. And so the night closed gently on them all, the old world of smoke and struggle replaced by a new flame, small, steady, and full of promise. Yet for Hung, the flame was also a reminder that while he had conquered distances and built empires, he had nearly forgotten the simplest gift of all, to see the struggle of those he loved and to act before it was too late. The night was restless, the air heavy with storms that had not yet broken. Hung stood alone by the window of his office, the glow of city lights painting his face in fractured colors. The phone on his desk buzzed endlessly, partners demanding answers, foreign voices insisting on his presence abroad. Every ring was a chain pulling him further from the quiet farm where he had left a piece of his heart. He silenced the phone, yet the echo remained, a reminder that he could not stand in two worlds forever. At the farm, Tieu Ka cooked with ease, the steady hiss of the gas stove warming her small kitchen. She thought of Hung and his guilty eyes, his hands that carried fruit and regret in equal measure. Min Do played nearby, his laughter bright, innocent of the storms that churned outside their walls. For the first time in years, she felt peace, fragile, but real, and yet she knew peace was temporary, a gift that could be stolen if Hung chose ambition over love again. Hung returned the next evening, weary, but with a strange clarity in his eyes. He sat at the table, silent, watching Tieu Ka serve the meal. At last he spoke. "I have built companies, factories, fortunes, but when I think of what matters, I see this flame." He nodded at the stove, its blue fire steady and loyal. "I see your hands free from smoke. I see Min Do laughing. I see the life I nearly lost because I looked away." Tieu Ka froze, the ladle in her hand trembling. She looked at him, her heart warring between hope and fear. "And what will you choose, Hung? The empire that never sleeps or the home that waits for you?" His answer was quiet but certain. "If I lose money, I can rebuild. If I lose you, there is no rebuilding. I choose here." His voice cracked, but his gaze held steady. "I will fight for the business, yes, but not at the cost of this, not at the cost of you." Tears welled in her eyes, not of sorrow but of relief. She set the ladle down and sat beside him, her hand brushing his. "Then let the stove be our promise," she whispered. "No more smoke between us, Hung. Only flame, steady and true." Mindo clapped suddenly, laughing without knowing why, sensing only the warmth that filled the room. Hung reached across the table, taking Tieu Ka's hand fully now, holding it as though it were the only contract that mattered. Outside, the storm broke at last, rain drumming against the roof, wind howling across the fields. But inside, the blue flame burned steady, casting light on faces that had carried too much sorrow and now found something close to peace. The story ended not with triumph of wealth, but with the quiet victory of love reclaimed. Hung knew the battles outside would never cease, but he had made his choice. He would walk into every storm, but he would always return to the flame that waited in Tieu Ka's kitchen.